Welcome to Sacred Space. Thank you so much for making a little bit of time. As you know, my commitment to you is that we'll jump in, we'll talk about something. I will share a little experience with you, something to kind of settle you in. And then we'll jump out. And any of you who are in the Zoom room who would like to stay afterwards for a little chat, I'll keep this room open for another half hour. If we want to talk, you can stay, you can go. This is very casual, meant to be very casual, very easy to participate in. So thank you so much for joining me. Last week, we talked about kind of how crazy the world is, all the stuff that's happening around us, and how easily we are pulled into it. And we worked a little bit on how we might work backwards in the body when the body starts to get triggered, how we might work backward and go to the body first and take some deep breaths and settle the body, and then check in on our emotions and settle the emotions, and then actually see if we're thinking a little bit more clearly. So I want to just invite you to, we're going to do a little mini version of that. I just want to invite you to close your eyes for a minute, to feel your body, to actually take a minute and be in your body. Some of you are really good at embodiment, and some of you are not as comfortable in the body. Wherever you are with that, it's absolutely fine. But in this moment, let's notice our feet on the ground. And just allow ourselves to be settled in and notice the fabric that we're wearing and how it rests against our skin. Notice if it's soft, if it's comfortable, if it's tight anywhere. Just notice it. No wrong or right about it. Just notice. Take a minute and notice your breath. How easily and effortlessly you can breathe in and breathe out. And allow yourself to come present fully in this right now moment, with nothing you have to do later and nothing to worry about from before, just being present right here, right now, allowing yourself the gift of this time. And as you do that, check in. Feel free to put your hand on your heart if it feels right. Check in on your emotions. What are you feeling right now? I don't want to give you any words for that. Whatever you're feeling is the perfect feeling for this moment. Allow yourself to just have it, whatever it is. And let your awareness inform you. So that's what this is all about, is being aware of ourselves. And as you continue to breathe from a place of awareness, allow your thoughts to center in this time and space. Acknowledge that you are here and now, that you are bringing your mind in this dimension and all dimensions to this place, yourself fully present to the right here, right now. Allow your mind to open to receive what is for your highest good. Each of us will receive something that serves us, may not be for everybody else. So allow yourself to be aware that there is something coming for you in this experience. And just notice with curiosity yourself in this space. And as you're ready, gently open your eyes. One of the most interesting things about any topic associated with peace is that we have so many different ideas about what peace is. For some of us, peace is a feeling. For some of us, peace is an action. Like I have a friend for whom kayaking is peace. For some of us, peace is something that draws us into the moment. It might be time with children, or it might be maybe it's your bath time, that time that you can just settle in and not think about anyone else. For some of us, peace is when the world looks different than it looks today. And that's why we're talking about peace right now. That's why I started this series, and that's why I'm continuing with it, because there's a lot of consideration of what peace is and what the opposite of peace is and who we are in the world right now. And as we have this conversation, I want to begin with a bit of an affirmation for all of you that what you believe is yours to believe. That where you are is exactly where you are right now. When you come into this space, you're not asked to change what you believe is right or wrong or true or untrue. You are only asked to be curious, to have your mind flexible enough to not get locked into something that stops you from feeling in. Because when we have conversation, that exercise we just did is really important. New ideas are presented. How do they feel in your body? What emotions do they bring up? What thoughts do you have about them? What is it for you that is important about this time that you gave yourself? Why were you called into this moment? Because you didn't have to be. But something pulled you a little bit. Something pulled you that made you want to show up. So there is something here for you tonight in terms of consideration. So we talked last week about inner peace, because when we think about peace, and I apologize, my pup has decided now is the time to wander back and forth. So if you hear the little tinkling bells, it's my dog. In a minute here, he'll settle down. When we talked about inner peace, it was really an opportunity for you to ask yourself, who's in charge in here? Body, mind, soul, who's in charge in here? How much are you being affected by all the things around you, and how much are you exposing yourself to? And I know everybody in this group well enough to know that most of you are pretty careful about cultivating what you take in. But I'll share a little story with you. I was reading Facebook, probably might have been Sunday or Monday, and I came across something that triggered me a little bit. And I'm really good at cultivating sacred space and being careful about what I put inside. And it was a comment that pushed a button for me, because the comment was something to the effect of, if you are a spiritual person, please ask yourself what holding the current conditions of the world in a spiritual way is really doing in the world. And so as I looked at the question, kind of expecting it to be an opportunity for me to really explore kind of how we hold spirituality. Excuse me. And it wasn't that. It was kind of, as I read through some of the comments were really judgmental about spiritual activity, and how kind of along the lines of what we see around thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers don't count because. And so it pushed a lot of buttons for me. And I almost responded, and then had to stop myself, check my body, check my heart, check my mind, and ask myself, is this mine to do? Is it mine to step in at this moment and give comment to this conversation? Check my heart again. Is this mine to do? I got a solid 100% no. This is not mine to do. This is not a place I have to respond, nor a conversation I need to engage in. My work is different. So we talked just briefly last week about moving in this week to a conversation about peacemaking, and that peacemaking is an active state of being. It's not a passive state. But before we talk about that, I want to talk for a minute about peacekeeping, because I think peacemakers slide back and forth between being peacekeepers and being peacemakers, being still and holding space and taking action, building bridges. So when I read that email, one of the things that I really recognized for myself was my job was just hold space for whatever needed to happen there to happen. I didn't need to get involved. There was nothing I needed to do. And I could just observe it and understand that people need a place to say how they feel, and allow that to be what it is lovingly, which is different than being pissed off about it and saying, I'm not going to play, right? It's a different thing to hold space for people having their free voice and their ways of expressing at a time that life is difficult. So we often, as spiritual people, get called in to be peacekeepers. And that means that we observe and witness what's happening around us. It might be between members of our family. It might be between people we work with. It might be at the grocery store when two people are at odds with one another. Sometimes we have the opportunity to simply recognize what's going on and bring ourselves to that state of peace we just did and surround that circumstance with peace. Just hold space for peace to exist, for the possibility of peace in mass consciousness in very close proximity, right? So someone who's around us or connected to us somehow. And we kind of sometimes forget that we are energetic beings, and this medium that we're using right now puts us very close, because we are reduced or expanded, however you want to look at that, to energy in this space. We are moving our energetic self into your energetic space and back, right? We are all in the same energetic field. So we can look at this and say, wow, we're all over the country. How fun is that? And then we can recognize we are all in the same energetic space. We are connected in a very powerful way. So when we witness something online and we hold peace around it, that's a powerful place for us to be. It's us connecting to one another with an even greater reach into the oneness we are. And that's kind of an amazing thing to think about. So I want to honor that all of us have peacekeeping moments. I want to honor that there are people who are out there whose job is not peacekeeping or peacemaking, whose job is protesting, whose job is writing critically, whose job is to stir things up so that maybe when it settles down, it'll be different. I want to honor that there are people out there whose job at a time like right now is solitude, is to move away and create solitude. And some of us are called into community. You may find yourself in any place in between that line. Maybe this is your time to pray. Maybe this is the time that you take action by writing a letter to someone. Maybe this is a time that you will post something on social media to make people question where they are. Maybe you're going to walk in a protest. Maybe you are a medical person and you're going to use your skills somehow to help people here who are struggling, or, Doctors Without Borders, you get sent where you get sent. There are many different ways for us to be part and of and to support change in our world. And there's a lot of desire for change. There are very many ways for us to do this. Peacemakers are different than peacekeepers. And what I really want to offer you is a look at peacemaking, because you might find that you are a peacemaker. And for me, it's something that I take very seriously. So peacemakers are active. They're the people willing to go into difficult space and attempt conversation and connection. And difficult space can be when your husband and your son are at odds with one another. It doesn't have to be a world affecting event. It can be happening right in your house. And it can be a world affecting event just as well. Peacemakers are bridge builders. And so I want to talk to you about how you build a bridge. I want to talk to you about what it takes to take someone from this place, solid place where their feet are planted, to the other side of a bridge. So it's interesting when we talk about bridge building, I say the word bridge building, but what I'm really talking about is moving people from one side of the bridge to the other. So let's imagine, you don't even have to close your eyes to do this. Let's just imagine that you are standing on one side of a very rickety bridge. Maybe it's one of those bridges that goes over a ravine and has all of the slats are, 3 feet apart, and you have to take big steps to walk across. So imagine that you're on one side of that bridge, and it doesn't even have to be a deep ravine. This is not about being afraid of what's below. It's just a bridge to cross one way or the other. And imagine that there's a line of people behind you on your side of the bridge who think a certain way and believe a certain way. And imagine that across that ravine on the other side, there's another person standing and a whole lot of people behind them that all believe like that person believes, to varying degrees and according to their experience, because that's how we work. So imagine that you're hollering across the bridge, hey, why don't we connect around this? I'd like to know what you think, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I think. How about that? And imagine that you step out on that first rung and take another big step. And the bridge is a little wobbly, but you take another big step. Still a little wobbly, but you got a hold of it. One more big step, and you are confidently at the middle of the bridge, ready to communicate with the other side. When you find yourself there, you say, look, that wasn't so hard. I've come halfway to you. Why don't you come halfway to me? It'll be so much easier. So when you reach across that bridge with your voice, are you speaking to the person at the front of the line or this person back toward the back of the line? You're speaking to the person at the front, aren't you? You're speaking to the person who is closest to you. So I want to tell you that bridge building starts by finding someone who has maybe a different opinion than you, but has enough in common that you have some closeness together. It's very, very difficult to communicate with the person who is far away from you. It's very difficult to make change if you try and bridge build with someone who is really stuck where they are and is a far, far way away from you. But if the first person makes it to halfway across the bridge, somebody else behind them might be interested in crossing the bridge too, because they know that person is close to them. So when we try and bridge build, we have to look at people that are close to us with their different opinion and reach out to them first, because they're going to reach out to someone else, and they're going to reach out to someone else, and they're going to reach out to someone else. If you jump online like I did and you see something that is really far opposed to what you think, it might not be an effective thing for you to jump into that conversation. They're not close enough to you to have a safe space. So if I want the person on the other side of the bridge to come and meet me halfway, the next thing I have to do is show that I am stable and safe. I am a safe person to talk to. I am safe to help you halfway across the bridge. I have made it here myself. I've come halfway to you, and I'm right here. I'm going to help stabilize this bridge. Just by the weight of my body, I'm going to help stabilize this bridge. So go ahead and take a first step. When somebody is trying to cross a wobbly bridge, you talk to them in a certain way. You don't say, "Don't be a chicken. Just get over here." You don't say, "What's the matter with you? Get on the bridge." You don't say, "Well, you don't know how to cross a bridge. That's easy to see." You say, "It's going to be okay. I'm right here." And you say it with a certain timbre in your voice because you want that person to feel confident. So when we talk to someone and we try and peacemake, we're going into dangerous territory. We know we have more than one opinion at the table, and we know that those opinions differ. Our job is to help the person considering talking to us to first know that this is safe. That if they're willing to talk, that you really are curious about how they feel, and you're going to be present to them, that you're right here, and that it's safe to take a couple of steps. You don't have to feel the same way I have or I do, but I'd love to have a conversation with you. Some of you know my friend Joe Uvegas, wonderful musician here in town if you don't know him. He and I have differing political opinions. And I was a little bit shocked at one point by how different they were. So I called him and said, "Can we have coffee? I want to understand. I want to understand." I picked somebody who's close on the bridge with me, somebody I know and trust, who feels really differently than I do. And I said, "It's safe. Like, I feel safe with you and you can feel safe with me. I want to know why you feel the way you do." And we had coffee together and it was wonderful. We walked away not agreeing any more than we had, but we walked away knowing, first of all, that it didn't change our friendship. And second of all, I better understood his position and he better understood mine. And that opened both of us up to a different kind of understanding of the differences in that bigger crowd behind us, right? So we speak in a kind voice, in a compassionate, authentic, caring voice. And we remember that we're talking to people who are afraid to really tell their truth because you might bite their head off. We speak to them with love and compassion, and we invite them in. And when they get close to us, we reach out, don't we? Because there's that last step, right? You're 2 steps close to the middle, and you automatically, you put your hands out and go, "Come on, I got you. I got you. One more step and you're here." We connect with those people in a real way. Sometimes it's by hand, sometimes it's by heart. But when we invite the conversation, it's really valuable to connect. Maybe it's someone you know well enough to start your conversation with a hug, like I did with Joe. He and I will hug always whenever we see each other first. Maybe it's just a touch on the hand. Maybe it's a thank you. Thank you for being willing to talk to me. We have different faith traditions. I want to understand yours better. And I'm hoping that I can share a little bit about mine too, if you're interested. We have different political views. I don't understand some of the things that you believe, and I'm sure that you have maybe some misconceptions about what I believe. But even if we're not misconceiving each other, I really care that we communicate. If you have the opportunity to serve 2 sides, to be able to say, whatever it is that's happening between you, there is a middle ground. Let's be curious about what that is. Would you be willing to have a conversation based in curiosity to find where we can agree in a world where we're really encouraged to disagree about a lot? A lot of people will say yes. So the world right now wants us to be peacemaking in a very aggressive way. And it's surrounding us. We're seeing lots of it. We are moved to our own deep feelings by the things we're seeing. And it doesn't matter what your particular persuasion is when it comes to what it is that's pushing your button. But there's a lot out there. And if you're not being affected by the news and your social media and the conversations you hear around the water cooler at the office, then you may be simply affected by the fact that in the space of mass consciousness, there's tremendous agitation. And if you really work on oneness and what that means, then that agitation is available to you. You may feel it pass through your body. You may have gotten really good at managing that. A lot of people here have lots of practice, but other people are not as good at managing it, which means they're short-tempered and they bite people's heads off and they snap. There's a lot happening. I had a service provider recently say to me, I have to close my office. I can't deal with people yelling at me anymore. There's a lot of it out there in the most loving and caring environments. So we have opportunities to be both peacekeepers and peacemakers. I want to invite you to watch for those opportunities, to know when they're yours, to check in, to settle your body, to check in and ask yourself, to do what is yours to do when it's yours to do, and to know when it's not. Because sometimes it's not ours. Sometimes whatever the tension is between other people or around a subject, that tension is moving us somewhere. It's changing things. So I want you to keep in mind when you're having conversations, how you bring people across the bridge, how you help them, and use the voice of someone who cares to get somebody else to at least to the middle of the bridge. Because a lot happens there at the middle. Next week, we're going to talk about what it is to recognize yourself as the oppressor. Because there's a time in our life that all of us experience that. There's a time in all of our lives where we recognize that we are in a position we didn't want to be in. We allowed emotion to get in the way. We became self-righteous. We were ignorant of what we were doing. There are times that we find ourselves controlling other people and disturbing the peace. Actually, completely creating chaos sometimes. At least I have certain events in my life where I've been the chaos maker. And I want us to work next week on what happens when we're the oppressor and how we catch ourselves, how we change ourselves, how we become more aware of what that feels like in our body so that we can notice it when it comes up before we cause damage. Because today's world is tender and it needs our sensitivity and our kindness and our love. So I thank you so much for spending a little time with me. If you are here in Sacred Space in the Zoom room, you're welcome to stay and we'll chat a little bit. I'd love to hear where you're at in your world. If you are watching this on replay, I invite you to join me every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. You can reach out to www.asoulfulworld.com and look for Sacred Space. It's really easy to find on the page. Click in, register, and you'll be sent the link and you can join us in the room. And it will always be posted in my social media, so you can join us there too. Feel free to comment if you have something you'd like to share. Thanks for being here, guys. Have a great night.